Good afternoon, class. So today I'm going to take a class on Introduction to Environment and International Concerns for your environmental problems. So today we'll be going to discuss about what does the term environment means. Because when we have to study the environmental problems, it is very essential for us to understand what actually the core meaning of environment means to us. Then only we'll have a clear picture of what environmental problem actually constitutes about. Similarly, we will also go to environmental problems in India that we are facing and the statutory definition and what is the Indian perspective of environment. Similarly, we are also going to study about in this class, we are going to start about the related topics, that is ecology, biosphere, ozone layer. Because without studying these terminologies, it is impossible for us to deduce the environmental problem that we face in our country. Similarly, we are also going to talk about what are the constitutional provisions that are given to us, the constitutional protection that are given to us, through which we are going to define the problem of environmental problems. And since the topic is also about concern for environmental problems internationally, so what are the international provisions that we have? These are the Montreal Protocol 1987, the Vienna Convention, the Rio Summit, the Stockholm Convention. We are going to start studying in details about these overall aspects. So I'm going to start with the meaning of environment. What does the environment? So now I'm going to start about what do you mean by environment. So if in your book you see the definition of environment is given as it is a French word. It comes from a French word which means environment and which means to encircle or to surround. So generally when a layman says what is an environment, we understand that anything that surrounds us is an environment. But when you see the meaning of environment is not just whatever is surrounded amongst us, but it is a very deep and a very concerned topic which has a dynamic definition. It does not have only a static definition that it is only a surrounding, but it is also an enlarged concept which you will get to see today. Similarly, if you go to your book, you see the dictionary meaning of environment says twofold definition, which means the first is saying that external conditions of surrounding, especially those in which people live or work. So the first definition that it is talking about the external condition. So that means whatever is happening amongst ourselves outside or whatever is visual to us, that we can term as an environment. Secondly, which is saying that in ecological sense, it means the external surroundings in which plants or animals live, which tend to influence its developmental behavior. So the second definition is giving you in a deeper form by stating ecological sense. So you see the first definition will talk about just normal external condition, and then second is talking about the ecological sense. So what do you understand by the term ecology? It talks about the relativity of the organisms. So when we are talking about relativity of the organisms, we can understand that it is a very scientific word. This ecological sense talks about scientific word because that cannot be seen by us, that is beyond our perspective. Beyond the perspective of what we normally encyclopedia, there are also one definition. Why I am saying you the definition is so that you can deduce your mind that the concept of environment is not only segregated to a basic boundary. It has various meanings. So I'm telling you the meaning so that you can understand how the concept of your environment can have different forms. So similarly, if you see the definition that is given in encyclopedia, it is saying that an environment means an entire range of external influence acting on an organisms, both physical and biological, and other organisms, that is forms of nature, surrounding or individual. So you see, according to the encyclopedia definition, if I draw out the key points, what it is saying that environment, so it is saying that environment, entire range of external influence. So you see how the word it says about external influence. So initially when we told that it is an external condition, it is talking about the ecological sense, but then when we go to the definition, it is so how it is talking about the entire range of external influence. Next, on the physical, and it is also talking about biological. That means the word environment will not only encompass on what we have studied about external conditions or issues, but it also talks about physical, which we see, and also it talks about biological, which cannot be seen. So how the application of environment does not only encompass with these two, you can say it in a reduced form, it does not only talk about these two small things, but it also talks about a deeper perspective. Similarly, why I am putting emphasis on these keywords, it talks about entire range, it talks about external influence, it talks about physical, biological, as well as force of nature. So this is very important, the force of nature. There has to be application of nature in order to change, in order to affect this. The nature, the force of nature is very much important because all these terms are correlated. When you see the concept of environment, all terms are correlated. Next, I will like to go to the term which is your ecology. In order to understand, we have to go for supporting life. So the next term, biosphere. In the environment that we live. It is a part of Earth and atmosphere. So what did we study? We studied what is environment. We studied what is the concept of environment and how ecology is also need to be studied. Similarly, now we are studying what is biosphere. It is a part of Earth and atmosphere. That means the Earth layer and the atmosphere together when we study, then we get to know that it is called a biosphere. Similarly, the next terminology that I am going to study, that I am going to make you understand is the ozone layer. Okay, so what is an ozone layer? It is a layer that is present above the troposphere and within the sphere of the stratosphere. Because we have been already learning about what is ozone layer or what is ozone. We have been studying it from our childhood. But now when we come to the environmental law perspective, this is very important because in order to understand how the ozone layer depletion has affected to the coming of the ultraviolet rays and how because of these ultraviolet rays penetrating into the earth, there are many applications, there are many harmful applications that is happening and this means a concern, an immediate concern. So the ozone layer. Now what is environmental pollution? So you see now we have come up with like air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, climate change, land contamination. So what are these? These are effect because these particular whatever terms we have studied just before right now, these particular time there are a disbalance between these particular terms. That means the proper functioning of how a biosphere has to continue, a proper functioning of how the ecology has to continue is coming into a disbalance. And why is the disbalance? There are many reasons. That is, for example, if we see the core, okay, population growth, management issues, etc. So you see how because of industrialization, how because of population growth, because when there is a population growth, there is a very immediate urge to because industrialization, population growth and mismanagement issues. So we see how population growth tends to the immediate necessity that we want to have more and more. And in order to have more and more, we somewhere have forgotten that how we are directly or indirectly affecting the environment, how we are creating commotion in the environment. And therefore, it is a necessity that the immediate action has to be taken. And in order to have immediate action, we have environmental laws. Okay, so in order to tackle all these problems, we have environmental laws. Because without a proper application of law, there cannot be proper action, there cannot be proper control, there cannot be a proper balance that can be brought. So when I'll be dealing with the environmental laws, I'll be dealing with the constitutional perspective, as well as I'll be dealing with your international perspective. So if you have seen in your constitution 48A, 51A, G, so you see these are the directive principles of state policy and the fundamental duties that are given in order to tackle the environmental problems. So that means we can deduce from our knowledge that environment was not initially introduced in your constitution. That means the concept of constitution initially was not there, but it was brought via amendment. Have you ever noticed this? That means when we study the directive principle of state policy, or when we study about the fundamental duties that are given to the citizens, the concept of environment was not initially given to us. So that means it is giving our direction to the state to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife. So how it is given? It is given on the state. It is given power to the state. It is giving a direction to the state to make policies that will improve the environment as well as it will safeguard the forest and the wildlife. Similarly, in Article 51AG, it is also saying that it is not only the duty of the state to enforce laws, or it is not only the duty of the state to make laws, but as a citizen, it is also our duty. It is our fundamental duty that we should protect and we should improve the natural environment. And therefore, these two particular actions, these two particular Article 48A and 51AG, how a nexus has been drawn between them with Article 40 and Article 21. How can we make a relation? You see Article 40 which talks about right to equality, and Article 21 talks about right to personal life and liberty. So when we are talking about protection of environment, when we are talking about how it is a state's duty to protect the environment, or how it is the duty of a citizen to protect the environment. Now why 14 and 21 is coming? It is coming because the concept of equality, that if I as an individual, I am having an equality to live in a safe environment, then similar right has been also conferred to the person who is living in a bad environment. So therefore, somewhere if you see that the right of that particular person is also infringed, so he also has that particular right to live. He has the right to live in a good environment. So therefore, the provision of Article 48, 51G has been drawn in a nexus with Article 14 and Article 21. Okay. Then now next towards the last point that I am talking about your international perspective. So what are the international perspective? These are your Vienna Conventions, your Montreal Protocol, your Stockholm Convention, and your Rio Summit. So now you see internationally there is a enlightenment between this particular United Nations people that we need an immediate action in order to suppress the environmental problems that are popping out in every nation or in every part of your. So your Montreal Protocol came up in your 1987, which talks about a global agreement to protect the stratospheric ozone layer by phasing out the production and consumption of ODS, ozone depletion substances. So that means you see it was in the year 1987. And what is the year now? It is 2024. So you see that the problem of ozone depletion have come up in your 1987, and therefore it was a very great necessity that there has to be an immediate compact of how we have to tackle or we have to make laws regarding the ozone layer depletion. We have come up to various notions like CFCs. We get to know about the chlorofluorocarbons, the ACs emitting the gas that is emitted by the AC, the gas that is emitted by your cars. So this how there is a need of reduction. But in humanly approach, if you see that when as human beings, we have this notion of how we have to stop these particular activities, but we cannot control our activities. Why? Because a car is a necessity. When we say we need a vehicle, what is our first notion? That we need a vehicle because this saves our time to travel from one place to another. But at the same time, you see, if we see from the human day approach, that how a car emits chlorofluorocarbons, which is harmful to your environment. And so therefore, there is always a disbalance where we say that we need something, but at the same time, there is also how our actions are devastating the environment. Similarly, the next we are studying about is your dehydration. So even in Vienna Convention, what was the basic purpose of the Vienna Convention? It was to promote cooperation among nations by exchanging information on the effects of human activities on the ozone layer. So the first one talked about the ozone layer depletion, and the second Vienna Convention talked about the human activities. That means we can not only talk about what the problem is of the ozone layer, but also we have to take regard to how human activities, because these activities are the root cause of why there is an ozone depletion. Thank you.